Okay. Joe Rogan, Bert Kreischer, Shane Gillis, that group, Ari Schoffer, specifically Bert Kreischer and how successful he is. And I'm not knocking him. I am criticizing. But I'm also just proposing an idea that's interesting to me. Anyone who does stand up or any kind of performance art, it takes a lot of courage. It's very vulnerable. And I admire anyone who does that. Just being a musician, being and admiring the performance arts. Doesn't matter what you do. I'm glad you're doing it and expressing yourself. Doesn't mean I can't be critical or have my own opinion. And like we have to have the freedom to not like something. And regardless, kind of how I feel about the movement, the recent comedy movement, especially with Bert Kreischer and the success that he's had. And I kind of wanted to compare it to, it just dawned on me. It made me think of another performance art, music, live music. One of the biggest bands of all time, everybody knows, Nirvana. And kind of the culture around Nirvana. And look, I'm a fan. I'm a fan of Nirvana. I'm a fan of Dave Grohl. I'm a fan of the Foo Fighters. Not really, in my opinion, great songwriting. But overall, the entire concept behind the band and just behind the person that Dave Grohl is something that I can get behind. Huge Nirvana fan when I grew up, but at the same time, when I started to get into the blues and discovered Stevie Ray Vaughan, the more that blues music and Stevie Ray Vaughan and that kind of vibe appealed to me, the less interested I was in Nirvana and in general punk rock. Not that I don't like it. I think Kurt Cobain is one of the greatest and just a really talented songwriter, was able to come up with stuff that was very catchy and, inspired a whole movement, yada, yada. We all get it. You know what I mean? Grunge rock. That's not to say that it wasn't exploited. And realistically, how I kind of process this, Stevie Ray Vaughan, you're talking about a guy who worked really, really, really hard, to get to the level of success that he achieved, and still never really quite, as far as commercial success, never even got close to what Nirvana was able to achieve, really coming out of the gate. And again, that's due to like commercial exploitation to a certain vibe. That's really tapping into something that's not necessarily healthy or sustainable, but doing it to drive commercial record sales, et cetera, et cetera. Again, exploitation. Love Nirvana songs. Always will be a fan, and will always be in admiration of what they accomplished. That in itself kind of contradicts, from what I understand, Kurt Cobain's views on music and pop music. I don't think the level of success that Kurt Cobain achieved was something that A, he wanted, B, was interested in, or 3, really deserved. And probably a culmination of all that mixed, and you throw in some mental health issues, is kind of a recipe for disaster. On the other hand, you have a guy like Stevie Ray who embodies the whole concept of refinement of your talent, refinement of your skill, refinement of the music, refinement of your equipment, refinement of your appearance. in every way, shape, or form, the guy was working extremely hard for years and years to achieve something. And again, by the time he finally achieved it, was, tragically taken against his will. Stevie Ray died in a helicopter crash. Kurt Cobain committed suicide. It's extremely different position and perspective overall. Okay, back to Bert Kreischer and kind of the comedy scene that appeals to this mass population of kind of, this is just my perspective, the cringe culture is almost kind of what I want to call it. Maybe I just coined that, but it's the cringe culture of, let's see here, I kind of wrote something down. False masculine, becoming middle-aged white boy gamers, that bros till the end, really resonates with that class of people, which in all reality is kind of the same general demographic of like MAGA supporters. Again, I'm kind of trying to look at it from an outside perspective and not be political, because there are things that, like, again, as a personality, I can't stand Trump. I can't stand Donald Trump. As a person, the way he articulates, the distastefulness of his entire essence is the definition of cringe culture. However, I can honestly say that there are things that he has done that other politicians wouldn't have done, and you can't take away the few, but if not any, few things that he had done positive in politics, period. I'm not going to knock him for that. I don't like him as a person, but at the same time, I can acknowledge what he accomplished. Even if it was only a few things that were positive, there still exist, and I feel like that's important. Cringe culture. Bert Kreischer. Exploitation, appealing to the masses. Something that's just I'm not into. It's just something that never appealed to me, and for what it's worth, I'd never fit in where I grew up at any point, and have rarely fit in anywhere in any town that I've lived in. And I think, that's something that I'm proud of. But when it comes down to the specifics of this exploitation of maybe something that necessarily is not, I don't know, it's just lacking class. I don't consider Bert Kreischer funny. To me, he's annoying. He's the guy who won't shut up at a party. He's the guy that is so desperate for people's approval and attention that he's willing to do anything to get it. And, if it works for you, great. Just not my style. Never really has been. It's kind of the same reason that, Stevie Ray was appealing to me, because the dude dressed well. He tried to carry himself well, especially when he got sober. You cannot say that everything about this guy embodied, again, a little bit of refinement, a little bit of class, and then the essence of kind of a soul musician, especially in that world. Like, none of them are trying to kill themselves. Every one of them are trying to hustle and work as hard as possible and achieve as much success, and really regardless of success and monetary gain, they're trying to be the absolute best that they can be at what they're doing. To be the best artist they can be. I think if anything, like, Nirvana was more of a tragic, great accident that everyone got the pleasure and was lucky enough to experience and hear. But by any means, once I kind of grew up a little bit, was any aspect of the lifestyle and culture that Kurt Cobain and grunge rock embodied not appealing whatsoever. Also not appealing. Anything that really Bert Kreischer does or says to me is not funny. It's not appealing. And I wouldn't consider him anywhere near like Louis C.K. or Dave Chappelle or George Carlin or Bill Hicks, Jim Carrey, you name it. Literally, I don't like, as far as the actual skill and talent level, I feel like it's just essentially missing that key element. Not to say that he's not talented, and not to say that he doesn't appeal to a certain group of people. But that's probably in my own personal head trip, kind of where I find conflict and not so much jealousy really anymore, but really just realizing that maybe what you're into and maybe what you're doing isn't really appealing to other groups. And I kind of feel like I learned that, growing up performing music and just also expressing myself, being who I was. I just remember growing up, looking back now, I never thought things were going to turn and go the direction that they did. I thought I was kind of more progressive in my style, my lifestyle. I mean, look, I'm from Fayetteville, Arkansas, and 15 years ago, I was wearing fedoras and fucking blazers and scarves, and just the way that I presented myself. Looking back 15 years ago, before I moved to California, and the way that the environment is now, I mean, it's absolutely clear that I was completely off the trend of where things were headed. Like, it just wasn't where things were going, or where anybody cared for it to go, really. Like my producer, Jimmy Sloan, said a long time ago, I should have gone full Bubba. Not knocking country music or Western or bluegrass, but that's just not my thing. It never was my thing, and it probably never will be my thing, because that's just not who I am as a person. I can respect it. I can enjoy it to an extent, but I don't know. Maybe if you can relate to that, if you're trying to be original and you're trying to present your original ideas and your style, and you're observing the culture and how it is compared, it can be discouraging, but it can also be eye-opening and informative, and kind of reaffirm who you are as a person or as an artist or whatever. When I look at the culture now, let's say comedy and music, you got Bert Kreischer and Billy Strings. Bert Kreischer, Billy Strings. Probably the least two artists, especially in comedy and music, that I have less in common with in taste and style you could pick on the fucking planet. Sorry, not knocking either one of them. I think they're both, again, I commend anybody in performance art for putting it out there, and I'm happy for them both, happy and proud of anyone who's out there putting their art out there. That doesn't mean that I like it. Doesn't mean that it's my thing or my style. I prefer other things, other flavors. You know what I mean? And I think that's okay. I completely think that that's kind of healthy, and people shouldn't necessarily just jump to like something because everybody else is liking it. I mean, that's kind of part of the issue from the very beginning of what I'm saying, is just that herd tribal mentality. But it's easier to fall in line than it is to be original, be individual, and that's just kind of how I'm feeling lately about just kind of the climate and the landscape of the entertainment world, you know? Like, go fucking figure, right? Like, I just saw a thing, and, Andy Frasco, what a performer, incredible drive, incredible ability to keep the pedal to the metal. I've been following that guy, if not from the beginning really of his whole movement, which got to be like 10, 15 years now, from way back, and just to watch that dude take over the scene, like, it is absolutely impressive, and I commend him for that. Unbelievable work ethic, and just all the success in the world, and hats off to you, Andy. At the same time, as I was, after years and years of watching this guy, do crowd surfing and bonging beers on stage, and you fucking name it, I finally thought to myself, how exhausting. Because this is not something I love to do. I don't love to be on social media all goddamn day, all the fucking time, sharing every little fucking detail of everything that I'm doing all the time. It's just not what I wanted to do with my life. And I think that's a huge driving factor of why I got into art, why I got into music, things like that. Social media really in general, not really appealing to me. Like, I was a fan and of the culture behind the Doors, the Jimi Hendrix, psychedelic late 60s, early Led Zeppelin, where these bands and artists kind of developed a persona that was kind of beyond real life, like almost like in a magical way. And there was this mystique and mystery to the whole essence of what they did, and that's what was appealing to me. That's really what I wanted to capture. Like, I still would love to have a private life and then go be able to play guitar on the weekends and packed bars. Like, not really super unrealistic dreams, but the more that social media and content, oh my God, content. Like, there was something the other day that I read about, like, look, don't be the product. Like, enjoy your life. Like, you don't have to be amazing at everything you do. Go out there and suck at something and just have fun. The culture of our society, when it comes down to this, idealistic, best imagery of yourself at all times, is kind of disgusting and kind of makes me not want to be a part of it. In the same sense, honestly, as a musician, as a singer-songwriter who had dedicated 20 fucking years to this, can honestly say, and to take a guy like Andy Frasco or Bert Kreischer, right? Or Billy Strings, and I can say, in the same breath, I'm jealous of them. I'm jealous of their success because it's something that I want for myself. I want to be acknowledged. I want people to like and would love for people to love to hear my music and love to hear what I'm doing. But at the same time, the more that I analyze that and kind of reflect on it, the more I feel that it's absolutely the opposite of how I wanted to go about getting that success. Not knocking them, but the way that Bert Kreischer, Andy Frasco, I don't know, Billy Strings kind of just have this thing about the old man voice. Not really knocking him. I think he's an insanely talented, guitar player, but at the same time, like going to a show at fucking Red Rocks without a drummer and like the hype over what's actually there for me is not entertaining. It's just not. I'm not knocking. I know to some people it is, and that's fine, and I fucking support you 100%. But it's the same thing with like the Andy Frasco shows from when I watched way back. I mean, like, there was nothing appealing to me about beer bonging, doing beer bongs on stage. Like, I've always been about the music, the scene, but that's my personal taste. And I'm not saying I'm right, but I'm just sharing my opinion and something that I noticed. And something that makes it, for some people, maybe makes it better and easier to navigate the social media world. But for some people, and maybe I'm the only one, but maybe not, it makes it more difficult. It makes it more difficult to be involved because of the expectations that I feel like the general, the general public and the masses demand, like what they're thirsty for, especially in our culture, and I feel like you can relate it to like Jackass. Again, Jackass, Johnny Knoxville, Steve-O, Bam Margera. But if you look at any of these guys now that they're older, unless they got sober completely, they're either dead or fucking crazy and losing their minds to some. Look at Bam Margera. I mean, just look at him. So it's like, yeah, there was a moment when it was funny. It's kind of funny. Certain things are funny. It's funny to see someone falling down a staircase in a shopping cart. Yeah, because it's just fucking crazy. But for me, there is nothing funny about eating an snow cone made of piss. There's not a single thing entertaining or funny about it. The shock and awe culture, cringe culture, Bert Kreischer shit his pants on stage in Little Rock, Arkansas, if you believe it or not. Just how fucking ironic and how appropriate. And he was cheered. Like, for me, that represents everything that's wrong with society. Like, it's absolutely disheartening to me. But I guess that's just the way it is. Anyways, that's just a rant. Just something I was thinking about. And again, look, this is just my opinion. It's not financial advice. Just kind of sum all that up. Bert Kreischer, the kind of that Joe Rogan clique. Not so much Joe, but Joe really isn't a comedian in my opinion. He's really not that funny. An amazing podcaster. But just in general, like how Nirvana came out of that late 80s hair metal, vibe that was on its way out the door. Again, everybody kind of had enough of it because the commercial people were pushing it down your throat. Like, am I a fan of hair metal? Not really, but I think Motley Crue and Guns N' Roses, a couple of the greatest bands of all time. Slash is one of the greatest guitar players of all time. What's his fucking name? From Motley Crue, Mick Mars, one of the greatest guitar artists of all time. You know, real guitar heroes, and just what they embodied as the image and as the culture, which was this excess of everything, and excess, especially of just the idea of what pleasure is, and abundance. Excess is never good with anything, but it was there. You know, you just couldn't say that about Nirvana and the scene behind it. Like, you know, like I don't really find it appealing to hang out with some angry teenager who has problems with their fucking parents and really doesn't want to get a job. Like, that's really not appealing to me. You know, I really knew I was going to have a difficult time with success and a difficult time being successful when at all of my shows early back in the day, it was nothing but good-looking middle-aged women. That's when I knew that it was going to be a challenge for me to be successful, because I was appealing to the people and to the culture and to the vibe that I wanted to, and not really selling out to what was popular or what was the demand. Same reason I didn't go full Bubba. Could really give a shit less about some shit kickers. Really. You know what I mean? I like to fish. I like to hunt. Don't see me wearing Justin boots all goddamn day and acting like I'm from the 1930s dirty South and fucking, by God, shit far, Boomhauer. Like, dude, come the fuck on. We grew up together. We were in high school together. You didn't start talking like that until after you got out of high school. Be yourself. Find your identity. Don't sell out to the fucking masses. Andy Frasco, Burt Kreischer, Billy Strings, they're all amazing. They're all talented. I'm not talking shit. Just sharing my opinion. Thanks for watching. Peace.